Don't Look Up just dropped on Netflix after apparently being in theaters earlier. I have no idea, but I just watched it over the holidays and I wanted to share my thoughts on it. It's clearly a political movie, and this is my first time reviewing a politically charged movie, so I want to get some of this out of the way just for the sake of safety. I generally agree with this movie's political agenda and opinions. I am a liberal. That said, I found the movie a little disappointing while still largely enjoyable. I'll be pretty spoiler free here. There will be a minor comment on one character arc, but that's about it. So let's dig into it. I'll start with the good. The movie is funny. It's a satirical, political / social comedy, and on at least one of those levels, it is working. I chuckled and laughed a lot of times over the course of the movie. Some scenes were outright hilarious and some pretty funny ideas thrown in there about how things would go. Sometimes they repeat a joke a little bit too often for my taste, but I mean, that's a lot of comedy movies in this day and age. They tend to milk a joke for all it's worth. If this movie were just trying to be a comedy, I would probably give it a higher review, or at least this review would sound less critical than it's probably going to. But because it has loftier aspirations about the social and political side, I do have to talk about that. Before we get into that though, the other obviously great thing going for this movie is its cast of characters. I mean, it's absolutely star-studded from top to bottom, and I'm sure the concept of this movie was a big lure to a lot of the liberal, obviously, actors who wanted to be a part of it. The writing of the characters is pretty good as well. They all have these kind of little mannerisms and quirks that make them feel more grounded in reality than the rest of the plot really allows them to be for how absurd it gets. The actors obviously kill it with these. And I mean, the characters like the Steve Jobs, Elon Musk hybrid guy were just incredible. I couldn't help but smile every time he was on screen. One of the characters gets caught up in the media machine in a pretty convincing way that I could see a lot of people falling prey to, as well as how he was picked to become that one also is pretty reflective of how reality would probably work. This is more of a neutral comment, I guess you could say, but I think this guy's point in his review really sums up my feelings on it quite well. It didn't really have anything new or insightful to say. It just poked fun at the way things were and was an echo chamber for people with my views to kind of pat themselves on the back. The only core message you can really take away is, we're all gonna die if we don't change, which is something that is quite literally shouted into cameras on screen multiple times in multiple different scenes by multiple characters, and it's nearly copy and pasted. I mean, it really beats you over the head with the point of this message. I would go so far as to say that this was actually parody and not satire because of the lack of critical thinking or insight provided. There could have been some potentially interesting perspective that the movie could have lent to the differences between a slow cataclysmic death due to resource mismanagement, which is, what climate change is, versus an apocalyptic event like a meteor crashing that's instantly going to wipe us out, and how media and the power structures might respond differently to these two situations. But no, this movie plays it basically like global warming with a fresh coat of paint slapped on top. I don't know if I can call this an outright criticism, but it was disappointing. I guess I just wish it tried harder to do more rather than pick a fictitious catastrophe out of the hat to be a stand-in for global warming and then mock America's reaction to it. This transitions me quite nicely though into an actual criticism I have of the movie, which is that everyone and everything is stupid. And I mean quite literally everyone and everything. Not just the political or the media or the corporate bigwigs, but everyone. And if America can't solve the problem, well, the rest of the world can't either. No one could. The whole rest of the world is outright shown to fail without America being the hero to save the day. It's so America focused in a global catastrophe situation that it's almost a joke in and of itself about how America views itself, but I don't think it had the self-awareness to realize that. It's also rather insulting to every institution, top to bottom, not just the people it's really aiming at. I rolled my eyes at how inept everyone would have to be to result in the scenes that were portrayed. So many things end up being the targets of jokes in this movie that it doesn't really have anything to say about any of them. Also, the core premise of the tension in the first act of the movie is just outright factually wrong. Media over-focuses on negativity and shocking content for clickbait titles. A doomsday scenario like this would sell like crazy, and you best believe they'd milk it for everything it's worth, not try and sweep it under the rug because it makes people feel uncomfortable who are watching. In its attempts to mock reality, Don't Look Up often fails to paint a realistic picture of reality to then be laughed at. One random complaint I have is with the editing. I really don't like Adam McKay's decision to throw 500 images at the viewer with some random background music playing for scene transitions. I noticed it first in The Big Short, and then was very apparent and not super well done in Vice, in my opinion, and works a little bit better here, but I still find it largely obnoxious. I find the ending of the film to be a bit of a microcosm for the entire thing. It has a pretty nice scene that's both heartfelt with some good laughs in it, and ends on a very poignant line that sums up a lot of the feelings of the film on the situation. Then, rather than leave that in the person's mind to be the thing that they're dwelling on, there's a random post-credit scene that's really dumb and just has a couple comedic jokes that have no real purpose for being there. I feel like the entire film would have landed a little bit better and its message stronger if it pulled back on these absurdist moments to allow some of the reality of this situation to shine through. I give Don't Look Up an 8 out of 10. It's a pretty good movie that as long as you align with politically, you'll have a good time watching. The charisma of the characters on screen and a lot of the writing just makes it so that scene to scene, you're gonna be having a good time basically the whole way through, but I can't help but wishing it went a little bit harder and more sincerely on the themes I was trying to push. As always, leave a like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think, and if you hear some scratching in the background, that's my cat taking a dump. You hear that scratching? He's trying to cover it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and now you have a great day after hearing that. Goodbye.